Welcome to Mystara, as today we're revisiting a lot of childhood trauma for quite a few grognards, the plants of Mystara, specifically the plant monsters of Mystara. I'm not worried about normal plants, even if it is the rare northern spotted trollodaran oak. Unless the northern spotted trollodaran oak then tries to eat someone. I'm talking about the relatively large number of innocent-looking plants that will try to eat you when you get close. Or fairly close in the case of the archer bush and more than a few others. I'm Mr. Welch, and break out the Thousand Island. We're making salads today. I'm only dealing with unintelligent plant monsters, not creatures like treants and gakaraks. I've already covered the Odic and the Undead video, so that one's not going to appear either. I've gone through all the source books, starting with the AC9 Creature Catalog, the follow-up red cover version of the catalog, and the second edition Monsters Companion, and then scoured every other book for more plants. Writing the video only got harder going through all the ambush predators that tried to eat all my low-level characters. I don't know what the Mystaran equivalent of Fortunate Son is, but that was going through my head during the entire writing process. The Amber Lotus flower is our first entry, and unlike most of the other entries in this video, it doesn't do any damage. Instead, it releases a soporific pollen that causes a save versus sleep. That doesn't sound too bad, until you realize it's a symbiotic plant that hangs around with other deadlier plants, and splits the future meal 50-50 with its buddy. You can find the Amber Lotus flower in wetlands, which resembles a golden water lily about the size of a sunflower. They aren't hard to kill, but you have to know what you're looking for. The archer bush is one of the most hated plants in the known world, not because they're particularly deadly, but because you tend to encounter them by the dozen. They resemble sickly tree stumps with thorny branches jutting out at all angles. They are primarily found in temperate forests and like to hide in foliage. When you get within 20 feet, they attack. You will start taking fire from all sides as every archer bush in the area sprays thorns at all potential prey. The attack only does D4 damage, and each archer bush only has 3 attacks a day, but you're dealing with about a dozen of them on average. Once they drop a target, they can slowly move to the corpse and begin consuming it. Good luck trying to find the plant shooting at you in a forest filled with similar-looking plants. Killer trees are another wonderful paranoia-inducing monster that has the ability to take on the appearance of nearby trees when they sprout. They can't change shape, and they aren't plant doppelgangers, but you can't tell a killer northern spotted trollodaran oak from a regular non-man-eating northern spotted trollodaran oak until it tries to eat you. It's the standard grab you with the branches and drag you to the hidden mouth killer tree. If this thing had a scientific name, it would be Sammius ramius. Giant serpentweed is one of the rarer plants in Mystara, mainly because it tends to grow in areas not commonly traversed by explorers. You will only find this in swamps or stagnant lakes. The plant sits at the bottom of the water with its stalks floating on the surface, resembling snakes. When a potential meal gets within 20 feet of a stalk, the plant snaps at the victim and tries to drag it down to eat. These things are almost impossible to kill, as severing the stalks doesn't harm it. To kill it, you have to burn the roots, the ones at the bottom of the lake. Good luck. The siren flower is a massive plant that can trap a fully grown man in a cage made of its leaves. The leaves will lay on the ground while the flower emits either a sickly sweet smell or the stench of rotting flesh, depending on the local fauna in the area. When the prey goes to investigate the scent, the leaves close around the victim. The plant squeezes the victim until it's dead and then breaks down the body with a slow-acting acid. They aren't hard to kill unless you happen to be trapped on the inside. Stranglevine can be found in any forest and resembles ordinary creepers and vines hanging off a tree. As you can expect by the name, if you walk under the vine, it will immediately wrap around your neck and other parts of your body and then start to constrict. The vines are firmly attached to their tree and they can pull victims off their feet. The only way to free a victim is to cut the vine with an edged weapon, which is almost impossible if you're the victim. One way to get out is to go limp, but this only works if you have very low strength. So wizards, this is the one time your dump stat can benefit you. Strangleweed, unlike Stranglevine, resembles common seaweed. It's also one of the deadliest monsters in this video because of its special attack. When you get within 10 feet of Strangleweed, it attacks and tries to wrap around the victim and pull them underwater. You get to make a strength test to break free, but it's got a huge bonus. If you fail the contested strength roll, the difference is the damage you take and the penalty to the subsequent damage roll. Thankfully, the Strangleweed's damage is capped, but its strangle attack can quickly turn a bad day into a terrible one. Then the rest of the party also discovers all the penalties for using a slashing weapon underwater. Mystara's plants don't mess around. The vampire rose is possibly the most famous of the Mystaran killer plants. This is mainly because many players cut their teeth on the supposedly noob-friendly Palace of the Silver Princess. The garden in that module has made more players swear off playing druids than any other because of the vampire rose. It looks like a rose bush. No amount of skill checks is going to tell you it's anything but a rose bush. Till you get close, then you get to face a bunch of blood-sucking vines whipping at you, doing longsword damage. And then you get to make a saving throw, or else you don't notice the thorns are embedded in your skin, so the next round it just inflicts the damage automatically. Throw in the fact they've got 4 hit dice per plant, and you are looking at a TPK right off the bat. Despite having an intelligence stat of 0, they are somehow chaotic in alignment. They are the only plant with a chaotic alignment that isn't sentient. And just to mock you, when the vampire rose kills a player, the leaves turn bright red, and still look like a regular rose no matter how much the druid swears it's not. Whipweed consists of a small base and 2 large stalks that reach 15 feet from the base. When you get within striking distance, the plant attacks. It's pretty nasty, with 2 attacks that deal 1d8 acid damage, but also require a saving throw or be entangled. This reduces the number of attacks, but now the damage is automatic until you escape the plant's grasp. You can usually find 2 or 3 of these plants together, but they're pretty straightforward in their methods. They go with brute force rather than trickery. The fungoid is an ogre-sized humanoid that appears to be covered in a thick layer of fungus. In reality, the fungoid is all fungus. The humanoid shape is purely coincidental. It doesn't have any intelligence. It just walks towards potential prey, beats it to death with its meaty fists, and spreads spores. That's the entire life cycle of the fungoid. They are ridiculously difficult to kill and hit like hammers in return. They are said to have the features of murderers who died unpunished, but there's no proof of that theory. They are solitary creatures, which is good as they can take a tremendous amount of punishment and have a solid resistance to spells. Okay, I lied. I'm going to cover one intelligent plant monster, because the other intelligent plant monsters fit into other niches, but the dusunu stands alone. This monster resembles a mold-covered skeleton that moves around like a normal undead skeleton, only it's not undead. The spores are the monsters, not the skeleton the fungus is animating. It reproduces by releasing spores at its victims, infecting other creatures, that the dusunu then kills with its claws. The slain creature gets reduced to a skeleton in a few days, and rises another dusunu. The best part about these creatures is watching the clerics try to turn them or use anti-undead spells, and then crying foul because nothing's working. The dark snap is a sizable carnivorous fungus found in the world below. Okay, is there anything in this video that isn't carnivorous? They resemble a sideways Venus flytrap, but somehow take on the surroundings' colors, which is strange because they grow in total darkness in giant caverns, so color isn't that important. They can grow to gigantic sizes. The smallest dark snaps are a threat to kobolds, and the largest known examples can eat a troll in one gulp. They lure their prey close by smelling like rumpelbark, a common fungus used for food by humanoids. Eyeweed is found in the waters around the Savage Coast, and is similar to serpentweed in appearance and tactics. The plant's body is located at the bottom of the sea, with stalks up to 100 feet in length that float to the surface. Instead of resembling a serpent, the eyeweed stalks resemble unblinking eyes. If a stalk touches something it considers food, the rest of the stalks will attack the target, with the eyes opening up to reveal teeth. The stalks will then try to drain the target of blood and organs, even gulping down bones if possible. Severing the stalks doesn't kill the plant. You have to get rid of the roots to do that. The roots that are underwater and up to 100 feet away. Those roots. Vermeil fungi are similar in shape to blast spores, but are filled with tainted cinnabril. When they are damaged, they burst exactly like a blast spore, but instead of dealing damage, the vermeil fungus's effects deplete cinnabril like a smoke powder explosion. They're harmless otherwise, just floating around and eating depleted steel seed and the corpses of legacy users. The scarlet pimpernel is an orchid that grows on cinnabril deposits, and when properly prepared, enhances legacy users' abilities. Anyone who eats a fresh flower gains a 10% bonus on range, duration, and damage of any legacies they possess. You can dry them out and eat the ground up powder to gain a 30% bonus, but this is dangerous as the dried version of the flower is a powerful hallucinogenic. I'm talking about making a saving throw with serious penalties or spending up to the next hour tripping balls. As the bonus to your duration is only 30% more, there's a good chance that the effects of your powers have worn off by the time your friends have convinced you are not the pretty posh pontiff of the paprika people. Hopefully you didn't start to think that your party was there to steal your kitchen spices and unleash your power on them. The Scarlet Delight is another plant that appears identical to the Scarlet Pimpernel, but acts as a deadly poison if eaten fresh. If dried out and eaten, it suppresses the use of legacies for 24 hours. Herbalists quickly learned to tell these two almost identical plants apart. To make matters worse, both plants have a legacy that is randomly determined. The plants use the legacy to defend themselves, but using a legacy more than 3 times in one day causes the plant to develop a new legacy, losing the use of the previous one. The gargonan rose might be the only good aligned plant in D&D. It's a chaotic good rose bush. It has low intelligence, but it's still a rose bush. It does rose bush stuff, which consists mainly of sitting there and making roses. It was a gift from the immortals, who felt really bad about that whole 3 curses thing. When plucked, the gargonan rose acts as a week's worth of cinnabril, but also removes the curse's effects during this week. Every day a petal falls off the rose, and the curse returns when the last petal falls. The plant only allows 1 rose to be plucked a week, and it has multiple legacies to defend itself. like 4 of them, and it can cast Charm Monster. Not to mention, trying to harm one of these plants is a capital offense in most areas where it's bloomed. Be warned. That's the plants of Mystara. Almost all of them can be found in either creature catalog. The Dark Snap is from Orcs of Thar, and the rest are from the Red Steel Monsters Compendium, which is free on the Vaults of Pandius. They are plentiful, which is why many players have the 1,000-yard stare from that damned garden. Next week I'm sticking with monsters, looking at the creatures of the world below. Until then, a rose is a rose is a rose, unless it's trying to drink your blood.